Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as usual, if you want to tell us where you guys are from, good morning. Yeah, it's so early today, right? I am sorry for not having my good camera and the best microphone today. I'm in the middle of coming back from a long trip, so I'm just borrowing my friend's office with this really nice setup around. So thank you so much for being here today. As you know, for those who doesn't know anything about the creator sessions, these sessions are here to inspire students, creators from all over the world to connect with their inner minds, processes, sharing top artists and creators in the immersive media and interactive technology industry. And every month, as you know, we talk with a creator in their industry, live here on YouTube, Twitch channel. And thank you so much for your help and your contribution. You really guys are the one who are pulling this in. So we're super excited and super happy because like every session we learn something, and there is something really interesting about the origins about and also the process about the studios. And this time, we have the honor to have Volvox Labs, which is an interactive experience design studio that is blending immersive visual content with art, code, digital fabrication, and sound. And today I have with me to Camille, one of the founders, and also create long he's been in this industry for a while, as some of us are been here. And welcome, Camille. Super happy to have you here.
Thanks for having
As-
me. How's it
yeah,
going?
yeah,
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be a part of the creator session today.
yeah. So as you know, like we have people from Berlin, from Munich, from
Hmm.
Seoul, Korea, for
Amazing.
Warsaw.
Warsaw, hey.
Oh wow, Canada. So yeah, sometimes we have everywhere. Like Japan, India, and we're super excited. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know you guys are super busy. Like it's been tough to arrange this conversation with you guys today, and sorry to wake you
No, yeah.
up that early.
Super happy that we managed. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of clipping in your mic. Maybe it's something that it's happening in the mic, but we'll figure
Okay.
out if
Yeah, it goes, yeah, I'm on Wi-Fi, so maybe I'll switch to Ethernet if it keeps going. But just let me know. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So, Camille, so the first question, the obligatory question in this session, it's always asked, like for those who know and know their work of Volvox Labs, they've been here for a while, pretty much since the start of this kind of revolution of the immersive media industry, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I've been following you guys on social media because like most of the stuff that you create with visuals are stunning, and the more that you see the progression with your experiences, they become more physical. Like they
Mhm.
start to be quite digital at the beginning, and
Mhm.
now we're entering into a new phase that is a combination with physical and digital. But before we start with all this story about how this blending start to going grow
Mhm.
up,
Yeah.
it will be great to know from you, like what was the start from the studio, like how do you guys
Hmm.
start?
Yeah. Sure. So, I'll just go quickly from the very beginning of the journey here. So I'm from Poland. Came to the US at the age of 21 to school. Started graphic design school and in DC. So that was, the early days of kind of After Effects and some early Cinema 4D kind of testing. That's before projection mapping was a thing still. 2007, 8. So it was just the kind of the birth of the industry as we know it. So at the end of that 4-year undergrad, I started, testing more CG and After Effects, and became kind of like a motion designer, right? So this was also where the companies like PsyOp and Buck were like, oh my God, these guys are unbelievable. The stoke was real for that stuff. And then followed my wife now to New York around 2011, where I started SVA, this is School of Visual Arts, and started their computer arts program, which enabled me to kind of test, the CG, but also, learn some processing. But also they had this digital fabrication lab. So, being sort of a generalist, I started connecting all these elements together, and also had a huge opportunity to kind of do what's it called? Just like a study with a professor of our choosing, which was Alex Chetvertinsky, which some of you might know. He's also a legend in the industry, but he essentially taught me and my friend at school touch designer, and so that was like a huge breakthrough for me, because at the time I was like doing processing, didn't really know how to streamline my CG animations onto many projectors and things like this. So this was the pivotal point for the company later on to kind of introduce touch designer into the workflow. So right after school, basically we started doing little projects, and that transformed into touring with DJs and branded work, and now what we are doing all the time, which is a mix of all the disciplines together. But really just, I think where it all started is SVA, blending disciplines together, pushing on that generalist kind of approach of mixing, create, interactive CG and fabrication and physical spaces together to achieve things that are, just inspiring and not there yet, right? So everything that's non-standard was something that we wanted to do.
Yeah, we need to check really quick your audio, Camille, because it's been clipping a little bit. Maybe you can, if you want to, do something else or change it, you can mute yourself and try to.
Yep, I was.
While I, do a little bit more of a back about what you mentioned. So there's a comment here about SVA alumni here. So it's interesting about this, new kind of starting of the industry, how it started mainly with art. I mean, mainly I remember quite well, it was not even, use this type of technology in advertising the scene, right? It was just pure experimental and people making all this kind of testing with video mapping and with projection, but, nothing, like the industry never, never thought it was going to become like something really huge and enormous, right? Can you speak again?
Yep. Can you hear me? How is this now? Better?
Still a bit distorted. Do you want to try something else?
Hold on.
And the other question that I'm going to ask you, it's about, so you've been in this school in the US, you came to the US to start, doing some work. But do you recall something that truly inspired you? Because I always try to, say in my sessions or in conferences about, what was that striking moment of that moment that you saw completely, changed your perception about the things. Because in my case, I wanted to be a DJ, and then I met my professor who created this kind of like instrument called the rack table. And then I said, oh, I don't want to be a DJ. I want to make, that kind of stuff. So what was that moment for you?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. Hold on. So I think there were two moments. So before coming to the States, back in Poland, I did a lot of graffiti work. So I would, not illegal, but just kind of like commissions and interiors, and just kind of putting myself on the wall, full body spraying, spray paint, and all that. So that was like discovering that back in Poland was a huge inspiration to kind of start the graphic design career. So that sort of kicked me into the gear of doing that. But then here, the big moment was Amon Tobin's tour ISAM or ISAM. I can't remember how you say it, but seeing that, that's kind of like first year of SVA. That was like, okay, I need to know how they do it. I love the the physical component of all that, and the mapping, and just the blend of everything together. That was the moment that was just like, okay, here's my CG work, but how do you do all the rest of it? So that was the moment where Touch Designer came in.
Yeah. So we're gonna do something now because your mic's still clipping.
Okay.
And why don't you go and restart your Chrome? You go to your
Okay.
Chrome.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'll come.
Don't worry. And maybe in the meantime, I'm gonna be a shameless promotion about the Off Festival. So when you're back,
See you in a moment.
while you're doing all this thing, let me just. I'm gonna share my screen really quick with you guys. Yeah. Local video. Yeah, let me just share with you my screen about Off. So if you guys doesn't know, Off is close, Off MX. So if you are in the US or in Mexico, please do not miss this festival. We've been putting a lot of effort to put this together. So let me just tell you a little bit more about the lineup of this year, who is going to be here, and all the people that is going to be around. And so I'm just, guide you through a few of the studios that are going to be with us. And I'm just going to point you a few of them that I think those are, do not miss those conferences. So if you don't know Margaret Carrison, she has a book that I love a lot, and I enormously recommend to you, if you're in industry, read this book, Immersive Storytelling for Real and Imagined Worlds. This is going to be, a mind-blowing book for you guys. All the, new Disney parks for Star Wars and so on. So there's going to be a lot of like a creators, studios doing conferences, talks. We're gonna have some moments of reunion with Volvox Labs and some other people with in an immersive meetup. So if you're in the LA, New York, or whatever, like it's a very short trip from the US to Mexico City. Try to do it if you can. Okay, let's go back with Camille. If you are back.
How's this? How's Chrome?
Yeah, we did it.
All right.
Yeah.
Damn, so fun.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great.
Yeah. So let me just. So we're talking about this, like all moment, which was the Amon Tobin tour, and then.
Yeah, definitely for the the immersive interactive experiences. That was it. But I first needed something to kind of get me into the arts industry, which was the graffiti, graphic design, motion design, interactive design, and now it's the blend of physical, digital, fusing everything together, right? But Amon Tobin's tour was the moment where it's just like eye-opening, like holy crap, this is possible, and that's what we want to do.
And what was this kind of like a like merge between you wanted to do this new type of animation, I'm gonna recall, because you come from the like motion design thing into which was like Volvox Labs.
Yeah. Well, I think it's never been, even though the motion design, I was never so interested in the 16:9 kind of outputs of the visuals. It was always kind of using a projector, going into the woods and shooting something on the leaves or on some holographic type mesh. That's where we started too, is festival worlds. So me and my partner in life and work at the time were traveling around festivals, doing like $500 projects where they would allow us to project something on the grounds, and that sort of pushed us into testing different visuals. Going really trippy, really weird with all this stuff, not this kind of standard stuff that was happening at the time. And it was accepted at the festival worlds, but it was not necessarily accepted so much within the brand world. So it took a second for the brands to understand, like, oh, the artistry or something strange can be a representative of our brand, which is happening totally now all the time. But back then it was still the brands are very kind of we got to watch out how we present ourselves. So it took us a moment to get out of the kind of festival world and into more branded projects, which now we kind of want to get back in there a little bit, because it allows for anything, right? It's a carte blanche, and it feeds the soul. So as the company now grows, we're searching for a little bit of balance now between the two.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of like the thing that I always, pretty much in all of the sessions that I lead and I've been having with all these creators. For me, it's kind of like this magic recipe for a successful studio. Have this balance between making personal artwork from the studio, and also commercial projects for brand clients, right? I believe this is the way you create innovation in a way, right? You don't expect
Absolutely.
to test it, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, I do have to say that we're so lucky that I would say 60-70% of our branded work allows for experimentation, allows for using our artistic kind of voice to a certain degree, but it still is sometimes so open that we're very surprised that they we're allowed to do it for some of the brands, like Microsoft, for example. Or now we did a project with Cadillac that was just very cool, immersive visual project that they just kind of let us go with it, right? So but still there's some lingering kind of concepts around the studio that we always there's on the back burner, and we want to execute them at some point. But I can't say that the branded work is killing our souls. It's not. It's definitely still feeding them, but as a studio we have our own ideas too that we want to execute.
Yeah, and I think this kind of like a change to become from digital artists and now working with brands. Somehow you guys are one of the reasons, because you represent this studio that are creating artistic work for a commercial client, which is kind of like a like it's hard, but nowadays is getting better, because like clients are taking this risk, with your experiences and with your installations. I don't know if you want to share with you something that you have in your browser, or any experience that you might think could also explain to everyone this type of like experiential and like very different way of looking into the experiences.
Okay, well, let me pull up the last one that I mentioned. So for Cadillac.
Cool.
Gosh. 1 second, I have to allow this.
Don't worry. And something that is going to be related, and which is in the same kind of like question that I wanted to ask you. It's about let's watch this and then attack.
Yeah, so this is I'll just skim through this. But again, this was a 270-degree immersive theater with spatial audio, and at the last iteration we also had LiDAR sensors tracking people inside, so full-on kind of visual, interactive, and sound composition development. And again, it was this whole campaign was to promote the new EV, electric vehicle line of General Motors. So they have now 3 new cars. The last one was the new Escalade electric vehicle, which is pretty badass actually. But you see here, these are this kind of super abstract representations of how these cars, how they see those cars, what's their personalities, right? So we were tasked into developing these worlds and these kind of immersive fly-throughs, these sort of moments about these vehicles themselves. So even though the product has to be here, like you can see here, this we did this kind of virtual light show presentation of these vehicles, but you then go into kind of the world of one of them, which is something like this, super abstract, but still allowing us to kind of explore and go crazy with some of the visual work. Lots of particles, lots of simulations, which we love, and keeping the color super bright. But then also at the end, the third chapter of this was this fully interactive one where we used the ousters to track people inside, just to point clouds and bring them back into the film in a sense. So that was very cool development for our technologists here. But then also wrap this whole thing up in immersive spatial audio that we also did in house. So it's amazing to have these projects where everybody on the team basically is kind of pitching in and adding something special to it.
I want to ask you a bit more about now that I'm seeing this project. I want to ask you more about your design process. Like, how does it work? Like, can you share with us a bit more about the design process that it's involved in your studio?
Yeah.
Do you use a specific methodology, for creating new artwork? Like, what is this kind of like a way you guys approach it to the, we're going to do this abstract thing and we're going to talk about that kind of stuff, and also people want us to talk about spatial audio production, prototyping process, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so in terms of design, Miro is our tool now to get things kind of off the ground. So dropping a bunch of images on the board and arranging them into what might become a chapter or a sequence or a transition, and from there we immediately kind of jump into what we call the boardomatic, which you take all your Pinterest and all your reference images into, you drop it into a timeline in After Effects and just kind of feel out how it feels in time, right? Because this particular piece is a linear experience, so we want to know, like, okay, how long are these acts? Where should we transition? What about sound? Is this too long? So you're basically standard thing, and from there we usually build previs immediately. So touch designer, or depending on who is running the show on site. Like this one was a disguise playback, so we do disguise previs sometimes, and drop this boardomatic straight in there. And start kind of previewing it as if the audience was seeing it, because when you're looking at a flat surface, okay, it's easy, but once you get into a space where you can look backwards and down and on the floor, and you have to kind of drop it in previs, and ideally even do a VR component to it, so you can understand like how the audience is actually seeing it. This one was super tricky because if you look at, this is the floor, but on the outside we also had some Unreal Engine stuff. But let me see. The CG component or the visuals were hard to develop for this, because this is the theater here, and essentially the render was like 7,000 by 7,000 something, but really on the center wall, which still is like the the focal point, really what you see is kind of just a sliver of, you can see my mouse here?
Yes.
Yeah, so anyway, so I don't know, like the 20th of this image is kind of what you see on the center wall here. So without the previs, without kind of looking at it and inside of the software, how it plays back, we would never be able to really kind of hone in on the detail of that center wall. It would be impossible. So again, just boards, automatic, and then immediately to previs, and just kind of keep swapping, keep adding the content, and until it feels great. And of course, this was like iterations and so many reviews with client, because we had the agency. The agency is responding to General Motors, which you can imagine the stakeholders. There's like 20 of them. So there's a multiple approvals, and it was just so important to kind of hit it right away, to avoid a snowball of comments and revisions. So it was pretty tricky to get this like really tied up.
How many people participate in a project like this, for example, just for the audience to understand, like the
On our team?
dimension? Yeah, well, in the setup of the whole, immersive
yeah.
CAD, like how many people do you think it was involved into specifically this project?
Yeah, so our team probably 8 so we worked with PRG on the structure LEDs. Sorry, so there was another fabrication vendor they're called Charnowski. So probably, I don't know, 20 people from there. PRG was another 10. So, 30, 40 people total probably designing and building such a thing.
Yeah, and also what you mentioned about building all these previous tools, like
Yeah.
nowadays it's kind of like a standard of immersive experience. Like you have to,
Yeah.
even if you do something very small, you should at least try to understand the space. If you don't have the resources to build that that huge thing,
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
it's like what other resource do you have? You have to simulate what might be able to happen. Even for a client perspective, right? To let them know, to understand a bit more about how what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Putting everything in space, spatializing what you're doing is key. And you see tools like Moment Factory has released that one where you get to like control lights on stage and see how all that works. Like that's just unbelievable. How you can see the show exactly how it's going to be before you're even in the
What
stadium.
tool you mentioned? So people.
So if you Google Moment Factory's Unreal Engine lighting previs for stage shows or something like that, it's a really incredible thing where you have you can control moving lights, you can control stage lights, LEDs, content as if it was on stage. So it's a nice connect. You can drive it from touch and see it in Unreal, so it looks very good.
Yeah, and the other solution is as well that you develop your own previous tool, which is also possible, right?
Yeah.
But takes time.
Yeah.
So not everything is a success, as you know. There is failure.
Yeah.
Many failures, but we learn from failures, as we all do. And how has failure or apparent failure set up for later success? Do you have any favorite failure of yours that you say, like, I just completely screwed up here, but later it went well and now become this studio?
Yeah. Well, I think it's basically, failure is experience, and with experience you avoid failure, right? So the more of these experiences you have, the less down the road they'll occur. So I think with just remembering what failed, what could have been done better, having post-mortem with the team, really taking notes on all this stuff, or even having like a checklist the next time you do a project, the next time you go on site. Do I have this? Do we have this? HDMI wire, whatever. Just based on what has failed, put it down on paper. Keep it for the next time, and there will be less and less. But I think that's for us. It's just like remembering what has failed, and then next time basically avoiding it because of that.
Cool, fantastic, excellent
Yeah.
response. And what about new belief or behavior or habit that has most improved your work as a studio in the last 5 years? Like, is there anything you guys find out that has been improving a lot your studio?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think team meetings, boring Monday team meeting. No, it is, and for us, I think because we have animators, programmers, we have the architects, fabricators here. Everyone's kind of doing something else on the projects, but we're still in a very small space. But as you get into the zone and as you kind of hit that tunnel vision on the job, like you have to kind of, hey guys, let's take a moment, let's take a break, let's sit down, let's see what everyone's doing. Please, explain, so your coworker, your partner here can see if they can help, if they know some other better way. Like always communicating between each other is great. So we try to do that as much as possible. Of course, once you hit the rabbit holes, it's hard to get out, but it's important too, because it's you have to kind of look at your work from different perspectives sometimes to understand maybe there's a better, quicker way to do something. So that's what your coworkers are there to help you to do that.
Mm. I
Yeah,
call them the pulse meetings. Like it's a pulse. Like you need to,
yeah, exactly. Check the
yeah,
pulse.
yeah, you need to check the pulse, because if you don't check that pulse, it's a lot of shitty things could happen. Even they become boring, because I know that feeling. I've been there, as well, in these boring Mondays. But they're absolutely necessary, especially with the people who are in the field, playing the ball. They need to understand, like, this game that is happening around.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna take just 2 minutes, 1 minute, to speak really quick about the HQ, which is the reason that we're here. So, as you know, the HQ has the HQ Immersive Pro, which is the only school for immersive designers. And now we have a 7-day free trial for the HQ Pro. So we've been spending a lot of time, and I've been helping a lot to the HQ to create this program of content, new tutorials, stuff that talks about a concept, how to create concepts, how to deal with contracts, all of these kind of like very deep and things that doesn't teach you in school. Only you get teach some of these things on the field. And there's like over 60 full as well touch center courses and training videos, and there's a private group on Facebook with coaches like Matthew Reagan and Elburs, who responds to your work, to your questions, sorry, about some specific things that you might have. And we also have this thing that we call the accelerator session, which are sessions with pros in the industry, which give you this kind of like things that they cannot share to like now in this kind of stuff, but they can share you these kind of things that they did, or things that happened with them while were working in projects. There's 120 custom built in touch center tools that you can use, and project files as well, and a certification program for interactive tech and media professionals. All right, back to the to the program now. So it's been interesting how you guys, I will say, like, from what I can see from outside, you are into this business building this successful business over many years, and it's been costing you. I can see that you guys have been. You guys had tears, in your eyes for sure. There's so many, like roads and things that you may be running into, right? And like, but now you're working with big clients and big artists and big names. Like, can you share about like some of the, how do you, my first question could be like, probably, now that you're working with this kind of like big singers and artists, like, how do you guys ended up having this job with this
Mhm.
in this field?
Oh man, the ultimate question. So as I mentioned before, after SVA, we got into, or still during SVA, we got into touch designer use, and so Alex, is good friends with Isabel and Greg, who are the derivative their derivative basically. And hi,
They
Isabel.
they might be here, I think, because Isabel is always joining these sessions.
Yeah, yeah. So we were super lucky, and happy to meet them. And essentially, this was kind of beginning of the touch designer community here in New York. So Volvox just started doing these touch and meetups. So first it was like 4 or 5 people. Now recently we had 200 here for some of these live coding sessions. So Isabel and Greg were super supportive over the years, and tried to kind of push us and have us do cooler and cooler things with the software, obviously. So Jared actually from Derivative is a good friend with Ali, the Dubfire. So he connected us to kind of utilize some of our kind of the CG visual knowledge, but also do a touring show for Dubfire. So we use Touch Designer, of course, and use some of our rendered visuals, and implemented a bunch of sound reactive, knob fader driven real time stuff on the tour. It was amazing. It lasted, I think, a year and a half. So we traveled the world with Ali, and from there we did another show with BT, who is a older kind of trance DJ. So that was cool. And from now we're doing shows with Nicole Mudaber, who's also quite a techno goddess out there, and we're of course utilizing Touch Designer, and again visuals. We love these shows. Again, it's like a carte blanche doing crazy stuff. The crazier, of course, the better. But it's still keeping it sort of narrative driven without too many flashy lights, right? So that's what we like to do, telling a story for the shows. But somewhere along the way, we did have a rep that kind of brought us into a little bit the branded stuff. So we had the portfolio from festivals. We did the tour with Dubfire, but the rep was able to get us into some of these like a Lincoln job where they needed visuals for something, and then more fabrication projects or build or events. And from there is just kind of portfolio was driving it, and we got connected to architects and different entities that sort of come back. And recently we've been doing quite a bit of agency work. So they have crazy clients, a lot of work, and if we can come in and help, that's we're there. We're there to do it. And that's how this Cadillac job came about. And there's another project I want to talk about, was the batting lab, which was an insane touch designer development, but that's like an hour that we need to talk about it. So you guys can check it out on our website, the batting lab.
Can you just point at that project so people can see what is? Yeah, need to share that really quick. I think one of the responses from Camille is about the start is to make one, and the others will follow. There's this kind of like a connection within them, right? And also like getting close to the people as well. Like as you say, like we just approach to the touch designer, and they're an incredible, very friendly community as well, right?
Yeah. So we were, again, like the right place, right time, kind of to start doing what we're doing, and but also not just kind of keep doing the same thing. We started evolving. We, like you mentioned at the beginning, we added the digital fabrication component. We're not like a scenic shop. We do all kinds of strange fabricated things, like this batting lab here. You see, this was the biggest interactive batting cage ever created in the world. But we also do sculptures, kinetic sculptures like this one. So again, touch designers on the back end, no visuals, but the movement and the evolution of this piece is still driven by the animators, right? It's still a moving kind of object, so it's not rendered, but it still has has that kind of sensibility of what our animations are. And so another kind of motto we had before was to give action, movement, and life to all things, whether it's on a screen or on a fabricated object like this. And if you have that scale and you walk underneath it, it just feels you're it's it feels grand, right? It's amazing. So broad spectrum of things.
Incredible, incredible. I'm going to pull in some questions from the
Yeah.
audience. All right. Well, there are a lot of questions here. Okay, so let's try to. Um, okay, do you hire or contract any work for creators outside of NYC?
Sometimes if we have projects outside, we look for freelancers. And recently, with the new kind of paradigm of work, we were open to doing remote work on some of the projects. With what we do is pretty, most of the time it's crucial that the body, the person is here, because it's all so hands-on. Everything's being prototyped and connected in our studio, so it's really tough sometimes to kind of just not be here. That's why the first moment of pandemic, I think it was like July 2020, when New York hit the first wave of openings. We were already here because we can't just sit at home and do the work. So it really depends. Sometimes there might be a project where we'll look for somebody, but it depends. It's
Another question here, like, what is your process for acquiring clients and displaying your portfolio?
website, Instagram.
Yeah.
We don't have like a PR firm or anything like that. Everything's kind of word of mouth, previous experiences with agencies, and it is a small world ultimately in the niche that we're in. So the studios that can do what we do is it's limited. So usually it's just our name will just pop up somewhere, and that's how the work comes in.
Cool. There's an interesting question here about something that I'm always interested in. Do you structure the story? In case you do, how?
Say again, I'm sorry.
So do you structure the story? I mean, when you're developing these experiences,
Yep.
in case you do, how? Is there?
So for example, with the Cadillac project, like when we do a narrative, yeah. Yeah, of course. So again, boards, acts, we always love breaking things into acts or themes or sections. So again, storytelling, beginning and an end, or something happens that kind of triggers everything that follows. So we're not. This is not a film production studio here, but there's always some kind of arc of the story itself. But with some of these product driven narratives, or for Dubfire, there's it's really just kind of thematic, and depending on what we're presenting, we want to do something special for them. For Dubfire, there was for example, it was 1 hour kind of a film. So it was about this machine that kind of represented the DJ. So he was birthed, he went through some kind of evolution, but then he realized that he can't be part of this world anymore. He kind of jumps off this big cliff. But again, it's like something happens, we grow this, we evolve it, and then we sort of finish it. But with Cadillac, it was more about what is this product about, how are we going to present it, and what's this feeling of it, what's the how are people going to react, and sort of what are the senses that are being triggered for each of the products. So that was the brief for that one.
Cool. So this one is really great. Do you have any advice for beginners who want to break into the world of immersive design? What kind of personal projects might set someone up to be hired and noticed by studios like yours?
Yeah, it's a good one. Well, I think for us, from at least personally, we like to see, of course, finished projects, things that are, big, but also things that involve multiple disciplines or multiple things. Like we're, ultimately in our industry, you're not going to do one software or one thing. It's all, you're always going to connect things together. It's always going to be different things on another job, and it's just always changing. So we want to see, a breadth of tools, and ideally something where it's outside of just fully digital output, something that can also be something that's spatial or something that's within a physical space.
Cool. And about the advice, I'm going to re-ask you this. If you were, so imagine that you have this time machine and you can back in time
Yeah.
while the beginning, when you started doing this thing, what advice would you give to yourself in
Hmm.
that specific moment in time? Like, with different, because you're starting, but is
Yep.
yourself telling you something? What would that be?
Hmm. Well, I think
So
so.
software.
Yeah,
Oh,
don't waste your time on tools or things that that maybe is not in your, like, the way that your brain works. Like, for example, I spent semesters trying to learn processing and how to write code, but I'm not a coder. I'm a visual designer, and I'm good at it. But I really just wanted to do it, which touch designer then offset some of that stuff. But I think there's that sense inside, like you kind of know, right, where you want to be. Of course, you want to try different things, but I wouldn't, just spend too much time on things that you might not feel immediately that that's the thing that you want to do.
probably.
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead.
Another thing is, advice that that I didn't know at that point, but definitely helped, is it is to try different things and be a generalist. But again, like still specialize, but touch on everything that you can. If there's an opportunity to cut something on a machine, cut it. If there is opportunity to solder an LED, do it, because the more you know in this industry, the easier the projects will seem, and there will be more possibilities. So
Yeah, this industry touches everything. Everything. It
yeah.
could touches biology. It could touch science. So many
And
things.
now with with AI, machine learning, it's even so much more to do. When we were starting, it was easy. Now it's oof. Good luck to you guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's way complex.
Yeah.
And I wanted just to reflect a little bit more about your response about you don't need to be the guy who knows touch designer or very well. Like I think you always have to make community an ally to someone who's smarter than you or than me. And that's how you become like a stronger group, right? With people that know something that it's totally completely different than you. You don't
Yeah.
have to know everything, and that's kind of like very interesting. And about what you guys are doing with events, it's fantastic. With the touch designer meetups and the thing that
Mhm.
happened in the because it's about building community. It's another key into like becoming a successful studio, even though this kind of project doesn't have any profit, if you want to call
Yeah.
it that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The profit of being with people that inspires you around, it's enormous. Right?
Yeah.
It's gigantic.
Yeah. 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 That was it. It was always amazing. As a growing young studio, it was important to learn and to share. It was tricky because we were like, okay, we got some cool tools. Do we share? But of course, yeah, it's that's how it grows, right? There's no other way to find something new, or if no one was doing anything like this, then how do we grow? So, of course, you got to do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull in, just a couple of few last questions here. Do you allow people to visit your facility? This is just people who want to visit and check out your place, I assume.
Yeah. Just reach out to info@Volvox Labs. Introduce yourself, and we can do a tour. Ideally, like after October, we have some cool things coming into the studio that will be exciting to see. So
I think I'm going to add that it's very important for you to lose the fear of asking stuff to people. For
yeah,
example,
exactly.
hey, can I send you my portfolio? Can I send you my content? All that. You're not
What's the
gonna.
worst that can happen?
It was the worst that could happen, but I ended up working with you guys. So probably
Exactly.
there is someone here in this group that is seeing this,
Yeah.
talk with you guys, and you ended up working together.
Yeah. I mean,
That
the same for me. The first time, we reached out to Alex, who was already friends with hi Greg, and Isabel. Like it was for us as a student. I was, kind of, can we do that? Can we ask them? Like these guys are so big, like it's impossible to reach them. But you just never know. It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Actually, I invited to the festival to Margaret Carrison, who used to be uh, working as an Imagineering in Disney, designing the story lead and all these Star Wars parks. And I said, like, well, she's never gonna respond my email. And I said, like, oh, I'm doing this festival in Mexico City. I don't know if you wanna come. It would be great to have you. And it's like, okay, I have another conference the same day, but maybe I can take a flight and be there at 9, and I can do the the talk the next day. And I was like, whoa, okay, let's do it.
That's crazy. Wow.
All right. So, the info. Oh, the people want
Info
you.
info@Volvox. Yeah.
Volvo Black. Oh, my final question before I have two final questions. So, I'm gonna mention the two questions now. So, what does it mean, Volvox Labs? Where the name comes from, and the last one is what's next for you guys?
Okay. Hold on. So let me pull up
Yeah, yeah,
what the Volvox Labs is.
yeah. I forgot to ask you that at the beginning.
So this is Volvox. Can you guys see?
Yes, yes, we can see.
So it's so back in the day when I was doing graffiti, all the graffiti that I was doing would kind of look like this, which was these sort of globular, spherical, underwater algae kind of things with little points and little dots. And then I stumbled upon this, and it was just like, wow, this is Volvox, and I was unconsciously kind of drawing this. But then it transpires that this is a colony of cells. It's a kind of like a membrane that hosts these little cells and sort of protects them from environment, from aggressors, from predators. And also it's got this little photosensitive kind of dot up here, and basically that sort of drives it towards the light. So it's metaphorically it's really cool. So what we thought with my partner was like, okay, Volvox will be this membrane. Within it we'll have, of course, our amazing team, but also the disciplines that we kind of fabrication, animation, programming. It's all kind of contained within this membrane, and as a whole, we kind of we go towards the light as we evolve. So it just felt right to use this. So that's Volvox, and the labs is just obviously we're testing, we're prototyping, we're doing a bunch of different things here. So it just made sense to kind of call it like lab, like we're scientists here trying different things at all times.
And finally, what's next for you guys?
What's next? More robots. We have one robot coming in here and one robot just left. That will be a super cool, exciting experience to be seen in New York City, hopefully before end of year. Bravo to the team. Very excited about that. And also just a little rebrand, a little refresh of the studio. That's obviously projects are ongoing, but we want to just kind of think about ourselves a little bit before end of this year, and like we said, maybe some of the kind of self-initiated work hopefully will get pushed a bit more. But of course, we're busy at all times, so we'll see where we squeeze that in.
So, can you just mention where people can learn more about Touch in NYC? Greg, this card is for you. You're seeing us. super amazing, super amazing person.
Yeah. So there is a Facebook page, Touch in NYC. It needs a little bit of love and refresh, but we'll be sending probably a newsletter for a new one that we're planning for November-ish here. So it'll be probably somewhere on Derivative or Instagram for Touch Designer. So you'll hear about it soon.
All right, so times fly. I have so much
Wow,
questions under the table, but we don't want to take your precious time. And thank
No
you so much.
worries, no worries. That was such a pleasure. Thank you, Josue.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and see you in Mexico. See you at OFF.
Will
They're gonna
do.
be here, and I strongly recommend you to check out OFF Mexico City. It's
Yeah.
next week. You know, like it's gonna worth every penny of that flight that you take and come. I can assure.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Never been to Mexico City. Can you imagine
No,
that?
it's gonna blow your mind. All right. It could be a good time for like meet other people as well from
Yeah.
this community as well. That would be great.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Josue. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. See ya.